welcome to the round 16 episode of the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm winning. Spook.
Geez, that sounded energetic.
Yep.
All right, so I don't think we really saw anything too different than what we've been seeing in about the last 4 or 5 weeks. Stevenson out again, surprised?
No, hang on, let's just back up for a second. We won. We're flag favourites.
No, then we'll get to that.
Okay,
Stevenson
sorry.
Stevenson out, you surprised?
No. Disappointed, but not surprised.
He has been appalling this season. And there's got to be some sort of physical issue. The glandular must have been a lot worse than they're letting on, because I just don't see any other explanation. I know some people are going to hint at some disgruntlement with Buckley, but Buckley has brought him back a few times, so I would have thought that, if there was an issue between those two, he wouldn't be brought back.
No, you can't put logic into that situation, though. I did see there was an article that came out today, I think, from SEN in their Let's Clutch at Straws department, saying that he's potentially trade material. I guess that's because he's been in and out of the side all year. Wouldn't you draw any other conclusion to that? Wouldn't be form related that you only do that because you want to move a player on that you've heavily invested in early pick on?
Why the fuck would you bother doing legitimate? This is what shits me about the AFL. This is irresponsible journalism. It's clickbait and it's shit. And I imagine the players who are at the end of these sort of scurrilous rumours can't be feeling good about it, because you know what? Someone like Stevenson, who's pretty young, it might actually get into his head and think, am I on the way out? Is this why I'm not being played, and all this sort of shit? And I think journalism has a greater responsibility to the reportage of the game than the shit that they produce. It's fucking appalling. Anyway, back to the game. Yep. Josh Thomas, 100 games. Jack Crisp, 150 for his career. He played 18 for Brisbane.
Did he? Is that all?
Yeah. Yeah. He hasn't missed. Yeah. Well, that's debatable. And Scott Pendlebury tied Tony Shaw's a day on games or tonight.
313 or something, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. And they both played in one flag and 2 losing grand finals. There's just a synchronicity at Collingwood. Jordan DeGoey came back. Should he have been allowed to play? Sorry?
Backing up on that Pendlebury-Shaw comparison, the odds would be very short, surely, at the best of times, that would be your career.
Yeah.
Anyway, move on.
Should Jordan DeGoey have been allowed to play?
Based on what? What are you referencing?
Some article that said he should not have been allowed to play on his incident.
Yeah, and I pointed this out to you today, and I, at risk of the ire of whatever it is community that could be upset this week, that fucking knowledge has been common for a couple of months now. Why did that article come out today on the eve of him coming back? That article could have been published last week or the week before or 2 months ago. Why did it come out today? Isn't that sort of almost borderline double standards about how you report this sort of thing? Because you're reporting something as an opinion piece. You're also manipulating when that opinion piece comes out based on the appearance of something. It's a trigger in both ways. You're playing a system that's enabling you to have your voice heard for the reason why your voice is heard.
Well, you just summed up journalism.
Yeah. I mean, if you were that outraged as the person who wrote that article that came across as completely outraged, did that rage only happen today because you saw DeGoey on a team sheet? Or were you not this enraged 2 months ago? And it just didn't suit the narrative, because if he's not playing, he's not in the focal point, and therefore your piece can't be in the focal point.
I'm just curious that, I understand the point that if he's guilty, that, why is he out there? But then the flip side is, if he isn't guilty, then why isn't he out there? So,
well, that's it.
You can't just have it one way. So it's...
The society today, though, it's all about you're guilty until proven innocent.
Especially on Twitter.
Yep. The social justice in terms of the judges of society's rights and wrongs have already committed that person to jail. There has to be a process there of following whatever laws are in place to ensure that he's given a fair representation as well.
Oh, very Victoria. You're talking about laws. De Goey proved what a beast he is up forward. But as you pointed out during the game that we watched at a house party with 28 other people, all crowded on the couch,
All naked.
And we played Twister at halftime.
Twisted
His
Sister.
performance just what a song that was, and what a clip. His performance just papers those cracks.
Yep. That's going to be an
And as
unpopular
good as-
opinion after a win, though. You know that.
Yep.
You know what territory you're walking into.
Well, I asked you a question during the game.
Just one.
Yeah, usually I'm just swearing and making statements. What's happened to Collingwood since 2018? So 2018, they actually looked like a dangerous running team with a potent forward line where anyone could pop up and kick a little bag.
Yep, and did.
And in 2019, that form was very sporadic. There was probably a couple of games, the first one against Richmond, where we really showed it. But there's other games like that final against Geelong, the qualifying final. We didn't kick a goal for 60 minutes. So what has happened in the makeup of that side that has seen them lose their synergy? Because I still don't think we're very good. And let's go to what you were talking about earlier. I was actually shocked that there's all this kerfuffle about, we're in with a chance for a flag now. We're going to get into the finals and it's all going to click and all that sort of shit. And I just watch him, and I think even tonight, as good as De Goey was, as good as Coxie was, there was still a disconnectedness about the way they move the ball around. They're relying too much on individual efforts to get them over the line. And we should actually point out, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Grundy, but it's apparent now to everyone there is something drastically wrong with him, because he looks like a shadow of whatever he used to be. And I can't see this unit going deep into fucking whatever month the finals are being played.
I think February.
Yeah, against teams like Richmond, as much as we want to mock the Tigers, they're the team to beat, and they're proving it. They've had half the fucking side out, and they've had off-field distractions, and they keep going, and they look like the side that's got, has one hand on the trophy. They smashed Cats, who were playing really well up to then. So I can't see us anywhere near Richmond.
Mm-mm.
And to get to Richmond, I imagine we're probably going to, you're going to finish what? Seventh, eighth. Anyway, we're going to finish in the bottom half of the eight, so we're going to have to play 4 finals. And I can't see us winning 4 finals to win the flag.
Oh, fuck no, I can't see us winning 1.
Yep. So what's changed? What's changed from 2018 to 2020?
That's one of the great mysteries of what the 2019 season looked like. Because I think one of the key strengths of that 18 side, and I want to get too fucking bogged down and go back and revisiting this again, was that manic unpredictability of the forward line. It didn't matter how the fucking ball was delivered half the time. Something was generated from the entry. We just don't see anything near that liveliness anymore. And to sort of fast forward into today's game, the midfield really needs a hard fucking look at itself as well. Trelaw got a few plaudits, I think, because he probably had his usual 30-odd possessions. And he looked, to be honest, he played well, but the fucking drop-offs, Pendlebury and Adams were deplorable for the bulk of that game. You're not seeing any cohesiveness coming out of the midfield. And that was there's probably something that worked a hell of a lot better in 18 as well, was that, but you had all sections of the ground functioning at a very competent level. Probably ultimately the failings of defence cost us in the grand final. But there was something there that you looked at thinking that it was so dynamic and so rich and full of energy that you could think, well, we could fix the defensive deficiencies and become a far better side. But we just never fired a yelp since then. We meandered through 2019. This year, look, and you can pinpoint a whole bunch of excuses if you want to go down that path. I'm actually seeing a degradation of that again, that we're going backwards. Now, look, today we beat, again, it's that whole thing like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's that quote from, and I can't stop thinking about it, from A Few Good Men, where you said you just beat up on a weaker kid. That's what it felt like again today.
Yeah.
We probably should have almost borderline lost to Gold Coast today. They were a lot hungrier. They applied the same levels of pressure. On the rebounds, they were running off and finding space everywhere, whereas we were just fucking Rant. And there was just a couple of times that, and I don't want to single out any individuals, but Moore and Grundy gave up the chase a couple of times. They just gave up the contest, and that was really disheartening to see. And I think that's more of the malaise that's clouding this side. You have these flashes of brilliance. You have, De Goey coming in and being the difference today. If he wasn't in that side today, we would have lost that game. No doubt at all. And I don't know whether he's capable of carrying a side through to a grand final.
Well, the problem with that, is if you're just going to go through one avenue, there's always a chance that avenue is going to be closed down, whether he has a bad game or, they just
his other
triple team him. You go back to the 2008 grand final, Geelong Hawthorn, and from memory, Geelong really bullied Buddy and just sort of took him out of the game to an extent, and they didn't really have another. Hawthorn ended up winning, but Clarkson realised then soon after that, we can't be too Buddy focused because it's too easy to shut down. And that was proven in the 2012 grand final. Mm-hmm. So if you're just going to rely on De Goey to have these freakish games and do freakish things, that's probably the worst. And this is not a slight on De Goey's ability, but if your whole game plan is, well, let's hope he kicks 5 goals this week, then it's not a very good game plan.
No.
The fucking side's struggling to kick 5 goals. I have to do my typical Darcy Moore rant. I just felt like tonight was a waste of Moore. Everyone, I've heard people go, oh, we wish we had one of the King brothers. Well, you have someone like him. He's just at the wrong end of the ground. In terms of the sides breakdown, I think one of the things is clubs started putting a lot more time into Cox and learn to block him and push him under the ball and all that sort of shit. But tonight proved one thing. He's really important to the way you want that side structured. Yep. And dropping him for 7 weeks or whatever it was just a fucking bizarre choice.
It was madness.
And then still trying to play the same way and then using, Max Lynch and using Darcy Cameron and all that. It's just insanity. And it's one of these things that this administration or management of the team does. It seems to lose faith in the player and it just goes, well, fuck it. I'm not picking him. Like Scharenberg's another example. That's it. He's gone. You tried to play to a system and then when your own system breaks down, you're blaming players who never get to be at the end of some cohesive gameplay. And that's what I think was really happening with Cox a lot of earlier this year is you were delivering it with such shit. And I commented this very early in the game, is our delivery forward, it's an art form how bad it is. It's amazing how many times we can kick it just a little bit too hard or a little bit too soft and just miss players. And, Cox gets the blame for not marking it. The blame should be on the fucking delivery. And I think the thing that Cox did really well today, and you can't rely on him to do it all the time, you can't rely on anyone to do it all the time, is he kept snaking a hand into a contest and just getting, creating a contest when he had no right to. But you can't fucking rely on him to be, like Inspector Gadget and finding a way to get to a ball that is kicked so grossly over his head or to a side or whatever the fuck it's going to be. Because it'll happen. You've seen our delivery. It'll happen.
Yeah. Actually, Gary Lyon talked a little bit about that at length on the couch after the game tonight. I just happened to leave it on. But he was saying it's just the folly of kicking over his head or, he's a 7 foot tall bloke. You just can't hope to kick it over his head and hope he marks it. You've got to have a better system of delivery. The classic thing for Cox, and it's that classic thing for most forwards, that when they mark on the lead with their hands outstretched, that's the hardest time to stop them. Because otherwise you're going to either probably go over the shoulder or chop the arms. You're going to give away free invariably because you're making it hard to defend.
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, and or they block his run and shit like that.
Yep.
And people keep going to that 2018 prelim, and it's like I keep saying, fucking go watch that game. All those marks are on the lead.
Yep.
He didn't take these skyscraper marks in surrounding 4 players. Every mark was fucking on the lead, and you haven't managed to replicate that. One of the other things with the forward line too is, I mean, Stevenson was taken out of the game for 10 weeks last year, and the Goey. I can't remember any soft tissue injuries he had last year, but he was out a couple of times last year, and the forward line as a component just it lost its synergy, and you then were relying on guys like Josh Thomas and Hoskin Elliott. I mean, for me, Hoskin Elliott's been a little bit disappointing. That I would have thought he would have gone to another level, but he seems to be the sort of player who's going to need to be like the 4 forward or something.
He was
and
better tonight, though.
Oh, yeah, he was better.
Yeah.
And Myercheck has struggled to be the key forward, which, he's not a key forward. He's, as we keep mentioning, he's the second or third forward. So I think all that broke down, and they brought Elliott back last year and threw him in, and I don't know, they're trying to coddle him to an extent because of these soft tissue issues and that sort of stuff until they had confidence in his body. So I think they broke a vital part of their structure, and in doing that, it started affecting other systems further up the field. So the midfield couldn't deliver it as well. And I think the other problem too is last year I actually think they fell into the habit of not playing 100 minutes of football. It was like they played tempo football. And it was like, well, we'll turn it on when required because we just want to get to the finals. And, that's a fucking stupid way to play. You look at bloody Richmond. Richmond are just like, oh, let's just go out and trounce people, whoever they are. And we've talked about this before. You need ruthlessness of application 100% of the time. And we just don't seem to be able to deliver that. And we're now looking at other issues like what Pendles is 313 games in, and he's still our number one midfielder. It's really, I know we're talking about our depth and all that, but that midfield is a grave concern for mine because you're relying on individual efforts. It doesn't function like a whole. It doesn't function like a really good quartet of players. And Grundy's drop in form exacerbates how poorly that midfield is working together, in my opinion.
Agree. Yep, agree.
And defense is doing well. Quainer was beaten in terms of like Sexton kicked 3 goals on him, but he delivered a lot of attack. Noble, great. Chris was good tonight.
Just backtrack for a second though. I mean, Quainer did get beaten a couple of times, which resulted in goals. But I think for the greater part of his game, I'm quite excited about watching it. He really does seem to read the ball coming in quite well, and there's a number of times he actually out sprinted his opponent to be first to the ball, and he took a lot of marks in that respect. There's something there that just screams class, and he's going to be a very good player for us until his legs are split because he's only done 1 split of the shin. He'll get 2 done in a game. But, once he overcomes the calamities, I think he's going to be exceptionally good.
Yeah, no, he looks great. And I mean, defensively, he is great. Just he seemed to get lost a little bit on the body-on-body defensive type stuff.
I can't believe how much you hate him, though. This never come up before. You despise him.
The club. Despise everyone at the club.
How many darts you thrown at a picture of him tonight?
Oh, well, I threw 10, but in true Collingwood fashion, I missed every fucking time.
All right, so who's your next one? Who are you potting next?
Is he finished? Travis Varco. Is he finished?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, the last game wasn't evidence enough. Tonight was proof. I mean, the good thing, I suppose, is if you want a player that actually represents what it looks like inside of a pinball machine, that's him. But what did he really add? Any pressure in any respect? I don't know. It was just calamity. He just kept throwing himself at stuff. He's like that guy in the war movies that just keeps throwing himself in a hand grenade.
Yeah. Well, sadly, I mean, the last time he played...
Excuse me.
COVID?
Yeah.
Last time he played...
Hold that thought. I'm going to get tested. I'm clear. Let's move on.
Last time he played, he looked terrible in terms of, everything. And I was surprised they went back to him because I'm not trying to be cruel, but the last game he played was one of those games where I thought, if he was a 24-year-old, I'd say, okay, yeah, well, just form, let's drop him, bring him back up. But at his age, I was like, I think it's past him now, and you need to move on. And there's got to be some other option in the whatever the reserves are called nowadays. He looked
Scratchies.
really, yeah, and they're obviously not great measurements of how well a player's faring, given it's just a glorified training drill for both sides. The two Browns, Kellen Brown, you surprised how much he's also regressed?
No. He's been struggle town for a while, and I'm not seeing any reverse improvement.
Are you surprised that Buckley is persevering with him?
No, it's part of the course. Josh Thomas gets a game every week.
Thomas got to 100 today, so I'm curious if that'll be it.
I did read that when we drafted him in 2009.
Oh, I got no idea. Probably
That's what I read on Twitter, and Twitter never lies to me. So that's 11 seasons to get to 100 games. How long did it take Ben Kinnear?
Yeah, 2 years out. Remember, because of the drug strike.
Yeah. So what?
Only been 9 years, so yeah, I don't care.
What's that in human years?
In Collingwood years?
Collingwood injuries. Yeah, no, look.
I'll tell you
what else you got? What else you got?
My other problem was this thing I keep harping on about. It's like when you improve or when you get over the line, it's not because you've had an improvement in system. It's because you've just had a lift in intensity.
Yep.
And you're not going to be able to rely on that consistently because, particularly in finals, where the opposition is going to be equally intense and they're going to counter whatever you're offering. And this is, something we even saw last year in the finals. It's like, okay, well, great. We've never questioned that they play for Bucks and they love playing for him. But you can't just rely on being spirited because it's not going to fucking get you over the line. You need a better system. And actually, it's not funny, but when Alistair Clarkson was bringing Hawthorn up, he mocked to an extent, the hard ball gets and that sort of shit, because it was all about what you do with the ball when you have it. And we have that, we have that focus on, getting the hard ball and all that sort of shit, but it doesn't really matter because fuck, what do you do with it once you have it? And I think they mentioned on the commentary tonight that, we had an extra man at the stoppages and we're still losing the clearances. So where the fuck is the system that can manufacture, whatever you want to call it, the structure or the zones around the stoppages to win the ball and to feed it out or to stop the ball from being fed out? It just seems like all you're relying on is manic pressure. And how long is that going to fucking last?
Is it sustainable in a final series as well?
It's not even sustainable in the season, and this is what you're seeing. You look at like a few of the losses we've had this year. We've lost to Essendon. They're a laughing stock now. We lost to who's that other love? Sorry?
Melbourne.
We lost to Melbourne. They're a fucking laughing stock. We lost to GWS. They're a laughing stock. We lost to Fremantle. They're not a laughing stock, but they're a young side. And it's like, well, if you had better system in those games, you probably might have, I'll take the Melbourne one out because that was like the fourth game in 14 days, whatever the fuck. So I can understand they might have been physically flat. But the other games, it's not realistic to expect that every week you're going to come out with 110% intensity and be able to apply that over 100 minutes of game time. It's just not possible, which is why I think you see this sporadic application of the way we play a game, as opposed to 2018, where we really fucking just ran and played with verve and daring, and we took the game on. And by doing that, this synergy developed, and we brought other players into it, and we look like a dangerous side. And to me, just right now, all we're fucking doing is looking like a manic side, and that's not going to last.
No. But I don't think either is expected to go particularly deep. So
no, but the problem is here. Okay, if this is your system, if this is your brand, to use Buckley speak, why is it going to improve? Well, you're not going to get more manic players. The players you have are the players you have. So you're just going to rely on this for next year and on until, whatever.
That comes back to that whole thing about the need for change. And that's we haven't hidden about where our thoughts there lie. Next year's just going to be a rinse repeat, if not potentially more degrading. I don't know. I'm expecting more degrading.
Well, if you look at the balance, you'd hope that Stevenson comes back to what he was offering. I mean, even last year he was good until he got rubbed out. And you'd hope the goalie can actually get out there and stay out there every week. The problem with the goalie is, you play him up forward, you lose that next generation in the midfield, and you play him in the midfield, and you just look, terrible up forward. So what do you do with him? And then you have like a year extra on guys like, side bottom and Pendles and all that sort of stuff. So it's a case of how much is coming through and how much is going out or going to depreciate or whatever the case is going to be. Because to me, it still seems like, hey, we're going to have more going out than we have coming in using the current way we set up.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask something about this game, because this just befuddled me the whole fucking game. How do the umpires judge when the kick has gone a legal distance for a mark?
There's no GPS involved, surely. I've no idea. It's a terrible estimation of distance.
There was one they called early on us, which they said was, it hadn't gone long enough. And then about 2 kicks later, we did one which went about half the distance and it was considered legal. And it's like, what the fuck? I actually think, in my opinion, is they should just, instead of having a 15-metre kick, just say it has to travel 5 metres. It's a lot fucking easier to judge. And it's like, what's going to happen if you legalise marks at 5 metres?
I have no idea what's going to happen.
I don't know. Nothing's going to happen. I think they sort of think, if marks are legal in the shorter distance, that's going to make the game more congested, because obviously 20 players will stand 2 metres around the ball carrier and they'll just chip it around to one another. But I don't know. I just think that, the estimation of distance from the umpires is just baffling. And like so many of the rules, like the holding the ball rule, you don't know when it's going to be applied or when it's not going to be applied. And as a spectacle, it just fucks the game, and it really should be something the AFL should be held accountable to. I mean, the amazing thing tonight too was, commentary very rarely will bag umpires, and they were just baffled by the holding the ball decisions.
That's been a hefty trend the last couple of weeks. It really is actually getting worse. Like, there was that example.
It needs clarification.
Where Crisp took that mark. He had about 1 or 2 steps off and he was tackled from behind and just completely dropped the ball. And they called play on. And it was just the commentary team. I'd sat here and thought, that's fucking terrible. I mean, it would have gone against us, obviously. So normally you'd probably just shut your mouth. But you're looking at it for every facet of the rules of the game. That's textbook dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Dispossessed of it illegally. You should be pinged for that. How you can actually consider that as a means of getting rid of the ball acceptably is just wrong. And it shouldn't be that much of a difficult rule to interpret, but holding the ball is fucked beyond redemption at the moment. To the point where you might as well just pull it out of the rule book and fuck it off, because you're just not paying it.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is an easy rule. It's very simple. Did you dispose of it legally or did you not? And if you didn't dispose of it legally, if you just dropped it, I don't give a fuck about prior opportunity.
Prior opportunity is a crock. It should never have been brought into. What was it brought into the game for? What did it achieve? What was its meaning?
It was brought in because too many people were getting tackled and they hadn't had a chance to try and get rid of it. So it was all
so you just pretend to punch it and that was all right.
But the thing was, a player should have the license to try and get rid of it before, if they're tackled. They shouldn't be pinged until they've had a real chance to get rid of it. So, and it was one of those things too, like the AFL fucking does, like the hands in the back rule. It was one of those things that the AFL tried to crystallize a interpretation into something that was an absolute. So it was like, if they've had prior opportunity, we don't give a fuck if they were tackled and the ball was held to them. It's holding the ball. Because I don't know if you remember, like fucking 20 years ago, if the ball was held to you, umpires just go, yeah, it's held to you, you can't get rid of it. But then once prior opportunity came in, it was like, you took the game on, and you still couldn't get rid of it, but you took the game on, so fuck it, you're gone. So the AFL constantly tries to find ways to dilute rules to absolutes. And by doing that, they just make things muddier. And, the prior opportunity is one of example. The hands in the back is another example. That ridiculous diving and taking the legs out was fucking something else. It's just insane administration of a game that's been around for 150 years, but which they feel they need to tinker with 3 or 4 rules every year
to try and make it a higher scoring spectacle. And it's actually gone backwards. Like the whole 666 thing, did that improve scoring?
No. Well, I'm someone who just thinks, why does it need to be high scoring? What, do you want it like basketball? Fucking just going back and forth and, getting 100 points every game. I don't give a fuck if it's 5 goals to 6 goals. If I see like a genuine contest,
you got to view it as it's not a chess game. It's not like these all exciting non-moves. The scoring, no matter what sport you're in, is generating excitement. It also, if you wanted to be really quite cynical about things, is high scoring means more ad breaks during a broadcast of a sporting game.
Well, I agree with that, but I mean, look at soccer. Soccer, you'd have 90 minutes of 1 goal, so. They stay at fever pitch. They stay excited throughout the game. It's just, I think, a big contributor to the way the game is broken down in terms of scoring, and that is just the umpiring is just fucking shit. And by putting away the whistle, all you're doing is allowing scrums to perpetuate around the ball and to remain around the ball, and to ensure that unclean disposal isn't penalised, which means everyone is still rolling around in the scrum around that ball until someone finally gets a fucking kick out. Whereas if you just paid a free kick straight away, if it was there, you just break up that scrum straight away and it would spread everyone. But they don't do it. Any final thoughts about this game? Because, I mean, I think we're pretty clear on where we stand in terms of how we're doing.
Yeah, look, no, it's look. I think you summed it up earlier. It's always nice to win. I don't think we go into this as negative as we are. Or actually realistic probably is probably a more term that's friendlier.
Well, just
don't go into this enjoying losing. I do like to see them win. It's a simple formula of following sport. However, though, it's like...
It feels very passionless at the moment, doesn't it?
No, it's exactly where I was going to at the end. I think it was about 8 minutes to go or something, and we're a couple of kicks up, and any other year or a few years ago, I would have been on the edge of my seat. Like, it would have meant something. But now it's just like, I don't think it fucking matters, because I don't think we can win the flag. I don't think we can win more than one final. So I can't get excited about victories like this, because it just doesn't mean anything at the end of the season. You get rolled week 1 of the finals. No one's going to look back at any games this year and think that was wonderful. It sort of just all feels... And look, maybe it's the season. Maybe it's the fact we've been cooped up in my own armpit hairs for the last 6 months. I don't know. It's a dispassionate approach to supporting football at the moment for me, and that's just not so much watching Collingwood. It's watching most games that I look at. I spend half the time looking at my phone or the iPad or something. It's just none of it's holding my attention, and generally it's like basketball. You go through the motions of 3/4 of a game, and it comes down to the last 10 minutes as being the difference. And that's when you tend to drop everything and have a look in. And that's just not how it should be.
No. And unfortunately, that's what I think the AFL's cultivated. But as far as we're concerned, I just think it's been broken for a while, and people are still sitting there believing, hey, we're just about to click. It's all going to fall into place for us.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case. And again, it's boo rah rah with Treloar and DeGoey coming back in, and both of them, I think, sort of, they certainly make you a better side, but it's still not a side that's capable of winning a flag, and that's the reality part that you need to embrace.
Yeah, well, again, you go to DeGoey tonight. It was a great one-man performance, but, it wasn't really a capitalisation of the system. It was just he was really good. And that was the same thing in the Geelong match, but he played where he kicked 5 goals. It wasn't because we had a great system or anything. It was just because he was so good in creating stuff and,
a bull at the gates.
Yep. So, anyway, I just want to go on to a few things, since we're talking AFL, that, focus on the AFL as an entirety. Grand final in Queensland, good or bad thing?
No, I think tonight showed that in these conditions, as it gets hotter and dewier, it's going to be a fucking great spectacle. I think
that was Kane. Kane Corns has been talking about that for quite a while. It's going to be just a farce as a spectacle.
Like they were talking like they were smearing rosin or something all over their jumpers. I mean, have you ever heard that before in football? To try
No.
and rub their hands together and get some grip because obviously it was dewy and wet and slippery and stuff. I mean, there was a couple of blokes that fell over. I think Brisbane probably naturally, not Brisbane, Gold Coast
They're both the same.
played a little bit better in terms of their ability to mark than we did, but they're no superstar team at the moment. They're a developing young side, so they faltered and went south. So I don't know what to make of those conditions, other than the fact that it looks like it's going to be a terrible spectacle for the grand final. There is some positivity in these talks we have, isn't there? We've got something positive to talk about.
Where would you have played the grand final?
My backyard. That'd be good.
Where else?
Over the fence would be. Well, I don't know. You're
Assuming,
sort of limited. I think pretty much as the Nets closing in Queensland, it just happened to be. I don't think, obviously, by design or choice. I think realistically, Perth would have been better suited conditions, but I don't think with the way the hubs worked and getting everything over there and not having to shut up shop for 16 years or whatever it is the border conditions meant would have been made it unpractical. But I think in terms of conditions, that would have been the better state.
you don't think they should have played in Tasmania?
At Aurora Stadium, that'd be one for the ages, wouldn't it? Isn't it like snowing down there at the moment? Doesn't it snow there every other day? I don't know. I don't know about anything about Tasmania.
If COVID was to go on next year, which it definitely will, where do you think they should play the grand final if Victoria is again an issue?
Geez, I think they'd be if they go back into hubs again. They wouldn't be looking at this as a long-term solution. They want to get football back into Victoria midpoint of the season or whatever, but I don't think they want to endure finals anywhere else other than, the home finals for the qualifiers, etc., up to the prelim. But the Grandy has to be back here in Melbourne.
Let me ask
That's
you.
not to say that our conditions here are particularly favourable. We get some nice sunny days. We've had some putrid wet ones.
What's the reality? FCJ is the best ground in the country. That's all it comes down to.
The reality also too is that humidity in Queensland at the moment, I imagine, will be quite sapping. That any game that's a hard-fought spectacle will probably only last that way for a quarter or two, and then it'll diminish into farce.
And I know the reasons they did it, but what do you think of it being a night grand final?
I'm not a fan. I think it should be always in the afternoon. And even up there, you would think the afternoon would be a lot drier. Like, can you imagine if like one of those monsoons come through on grand final night? How good would that be?
Well, the flip side is they're worried that whenever they play a grand final, when is it, like February, that it's just going to be way too hot there during the day.
It's going to be end of October, is it? I don't know. So whatever Oaks Days is or something. I've not much interest in the horse racing, so I have no idea when that is. But yeah,
I thought you meant the other Oaks.
So ultimately, I don't think it's a great idea. But really, your hands force. There's not too many other options because Ailey Stadium looks good.
Do you think they'll go back to a day grand final?
Geez, I think now that the it's been broken, I think in terms of TV saturation and ratings and advertising revenue, I think everything's got a hard on for it being a night grand final, and this could be just the straw that broke that camel's back. But let's see how it pans out. Like if it ends up being a slugfest where two grand finalists kick 1 goal 13 each, that would be a screaming argument for what a mistake it's been. But anything this year isn't a screaming mistake because they'll all just point to COVID and the unnaturalness of everything and use that as a get out of jail free card. You just wait till Collingwood's spin machine starts.
Well, I was watching the excerpt from Footy Classified last week or so, and they were debating the grand final, and everyone but Caroline Wilson liked the prospect of it being at night. Caroline Wilson was the one dissenter in regards to it. Eddie Maguire made all the arguments about the heat and all that sort of shit. So during that time in Queensland, logically, it's got to be at night. But my concern is now that they've gone to a night grand final, they'll never go go back to a day or even the Twilight Grand Final. And as someone who's gone to, I don't know how many grand finals I've gone to, just how many have Collingwood lost, I don't know. It's to me, looking at it from a practical point of view, if I was going to a night grand final, there's a very good chance I would be a little bit inebriated by the time it started at 7:30, whenever it's going to begin.
Oh, bullshit.
And then if we
Come
won,
on, mate.
yep, hard to believe. And then if we won or lost, because I'd probably drink to celebrate or drink to commiserate. When do you drink from about 11:30 to what? 2 or 3 or whatever. And then what about kids? Kids, can't really celebrate. They'll have to be going straight back to bed. Players, I've never played in the AFL Grand Final, shockingly, but I would have thought the players would fucking not like it because they're just going to have a whole day counting down, until 7:30 or whatever. It just seems like a really long wait and keeping them on edge. Any guy talks about all the most important games being at night, but I don't know. I don't like it, and I think it should really be examined, as you suggested earlier, that maybe the AFL manufactured COVID to get this to happen, so they could shift to a night grand final. I mean, it's a wild theory, but there's been a few wild theories. I mean, I'm more leaning towards that possibly this has something to do with 5G.
Let's just run up the flagpole and see who salutes it.
Out of curiosity, Richmond had a couple of players suspended for 10 weeks. Do they have a cultural problem?
I don't think so. I think a lot of that stuff is just stupidity. I don't think it's anything reflective of Richmond's culture, because it's netted them 2 flags, and we prevented 3. There's every chance they're going to probably snatch another one this year. I don't think that's Jesus Christ. If that's a bad culture, where do I sign ours up?
I totally disagree. They do have a bad culture. For 35 years, they were fucking inept, and now they're successful. That is a terrible culture at Richmond. How can you be having this as a culture?
Something's going on.
Leon Cameron, should he stay or should he go?
Do you want to talk about Buckley?
Nah, it's better. As Collingwood people, it's more correct if we, look down at other clubs. Because I have a solution.
I see Leon Cameron in the same mould as Brad Scott. They keep a franchise alive because they keep going deep in finals every year, and they keep fucking it up. Cameron took it to extraordinary levels last year by fudging a side into a grand final that was never going to turn up. And this year they've probably more than likely not even going to make the finals. I think that sums up what that bastardized Frankenstein creation of a side is. Whether he's there or not, I don't think it becomes a point of relevance. They're a propped up entity. They're now being showed up for the pretenders that they are. In that respect, keep him there for another 10 years.
Oh, well, I have a solution to fixing him.
Yep.
Let's move Jeremy Cameron to fullback.
Well, when we give up 98 first rounders next year for him, that's where he'll play for us. Just on fullback, though, I don't think we sung his praises enough, but how good's Magsden becoming? Magden?
Oh, Magsden's Mr. Reliable. Yeah, Jack.
I thought he was terrible.
Really good again.
No, I thought he was terrible throughout his small little career, but geez, he's shown me up for a completely clueless entity, which isn't difficult.
The funny thing with Magden, he still has his critics.
He dropped a couple of marks today that, again, you could always say it's the conditions and stuff. But there's certainly a little bit of comfort that's creeping into his game when he's got the ball, that he actually will do something with it. And I love that chastisement of I can't remember who kicked it to him. Was it Quaynor?
I'm pretty sure it's Quaynor, yeah.
He's done the old fucking, the Obelix pock to his head. That was a masterstroke of a moment. I would have signed him up as captain coach for the next 10 years after that.
I think the really good thing about Maynor is, unlike someone like Roughhead, and this is not a criticism of Roughhead, but this is a criticism of Roughhead, is when he gets the ball, and like Chris Mayne's another example, when he gets the ball, he often will try and do something with it rather than just lay off to someone 10, 15 metres away. He'll take the game on. There was one bit of play, I can't remember, I think in the third quarter in the middle, where it was his sure hands that stopped it, and he weaved through traffic and delivered it. And actually, I'm always a big one for saying, hey, when it's your time to go, you need to go. And he shows that initiative for a guy who's, what pick was he, about 1,058?
I
And
don't think he went that low.
yeah, and who could rightfully, not would, but could rightfully feel nervous about his position. He doesn't play that way. He plays with some daring. He plays some audacity. He reminds me a bit of a fit of Lyndon Dunn at the moment. So I really like him. I think he's looked great. So
Not
I
totally
agree. And the thing I was going to say, Magden too, is he's falls into that category of one of those players who, if he does something wrong, and that's all people will fucking look at, and they'll ignore anything that he's done that's been good. And you look at tonight, Maynard had a few shockers kicking out.
Yeah. Anyway,
led to two goals. And I'm not gonna use the condemning or something.
No,
to point out,
he's too good to be. Yeah, they were just howlers.
Yeah, but just to point out, what? Sometimes shit happens, and that's it. And it just annoys me with certain players at our club and in the past. Make a couple of errors and people go, well, that's their problem. And then it's like, well, they had 14 pretty good disposals, but you're looking at the two that were pretty average. Next week, playing Port Adelaide at the Gabba at 7:15.
Yep. All right. Next, what are we talking about? I reckon my 10-goal loss.
That sounds conservative.
I think next week should be a test of where we're at. I think, though, we will fail that test epically and we'll get fucking smashed.
Now, the one thing with the test next week, hang on, I'll just look it up because of my fantastic research, is I'm pretty sure that we're the last game of the round.
Yeah, we got a 7-day break, so we play Monday night again next week.
Yep. So, have I ever mentioned what a turd the AFL website is?
No, it's a turd.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, being the last game of the round, we will know where everyone's sitting and what a win will do for us and what a loss will do for us. And, if we need to, because of the draw, we're not going to actually really need to rely on percentage. But being the last game, we will actually know whether we can move or whether we can't move from where we are.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's the same with Port. I mean, I think there's results that can go their way that can guarantee them top spot. And really, they're going to come out and want to play if their ladder position can't change.
Yeah, well, let me look it up. And again, being Mr. Research. So we're on 38 points. We're currently sitting 6th. Credit to the AFL because they made up that Melbourne-Essendon game. And I don't even know where the fuck it happened.
What's the last round, isn't it?
Everyone's on 6. Everyone's on 16 wins.
Yeah, so I still don't know how that worked. They did it by stealth, obviously, because I would have thought that game was still in the balance because it hasn't been played. So when did they make up?
It hasn't been played, but I meant they added an extra game to their fixtures, so they're all equal with everyone else now. So
when can you miss that one?
Yeah, we're on 38 points. We can drop all the way to 8th. We can't drop out of the finals. And we can go as high as 6. So that's as high as we can go. And then you look at some of the other games around us. So looking at St Kilda, Western Bulldogs. So Bulldogs play Fremantle. You'd assume that Bulldogs would win that, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't assume anything. What?
So Bulldogs could jump us. And looking at Saints play the Giants, well, you don't know which way that's going to go.
I would think the Saints would easily win that, which will condemn the Giants to not making the 8, isn't it?
The Giants are
they're 9th. They're 9th, are they?
They're 10th, but they're 10th, and they're a game out and their percentage out also. So they would need. Looking at that game, let me look at what Melbourne's doing. Melbourne's playing Essendon. We just fucking talked about that.
Right,
so they need results to fall their way. Melbourne would need to lose, and then if Giants, actually, to be honest, if Melbourne lost and then Bulldogs lost, But they need also Bulldogs to lose because GWS is like 3% behind them. St Kilda's on 111%. GWS is on 100%. So even if GWS beats St Kilda, they're probably not going to displace them out of the 8 unless they somehow win by 100 points, which, you know, the way this season's going, you're going to be lucky to kick 100 points, let alone but win by 100 points. So we're finishing right from 6th, 7th, 8th. Do you think if you're being a passionate, optimistic Collingwood supporter, what do you think would be the ideal place to finish?
Probably the local pub.
Well, I don't think they're open.
I think the biggest concern is facing the Eagles out of all the potentials that are in the bottom half of the 8. Because does that mean, I don't understand anything anymore, but would that mean that we'd have to travel to Perth to play them there?
I don't know. Are we allowed into Perth? I didn't think we were allowed into Perth anymore.
I would have thought all finals now are restricted to Queensland. But I do recall someone saying or believing that there's still a chance that we play them over there. I don't know. I don't know. I guess we won't know until probably next week how this is going to pan out. But I'd be a lot more comfortable facing the Eagles over in Queensland where the Eagles are shit. But if we, and it's the Collingwood way, have to go over there, then I'd probably watch the Wiggles or something that night instead. It'll be a mess.
I can't see it happening because you'd have to go through the quarantine in Perth and then coming back to Queensland, you'd have to go through the quarantine again, and the quarantine's like 2 weeks. So,
no, but Tom Hanks proved that the quarantine's no barrier to ever getting back into any state.
Yeah, he's Tom Hanks. Who the fuck are Collingwood? Or Eagles?
Well, Tom Hanks has made a lot of disaster films.
Yeah, but none of them have been as realistic as what we're watching. I'll actually fucking say I hope we play your Eagles first up. I reckon there's a problem with attitude at this club, and it has been a problem for as long as I have supported these Robos. The fucking problem is that there's always this attitude of, let's not play this team, or I hope these players are out. You know what? You're on the fucking win a flag. You take the best on and you fucking beat the best, and you don't shirk any challenge. But we always seem to be, concerned about, we need this to happen and that to happen. It's just like, fuck it. Let's go the hardest route possible if you're going to win a flag, and let's prove that if we're going to win it, we fucking deserve it. It's not because things fell our way. And I know we won't do it because that's not our attitude. I mean, we need bloody someone like Johnny Lawrence to coach this club. But it frustrates me that, we have this tiptoe softly, hopefully things fall our way, to attitude to make the finals or to anything. It's just like, fuck it. Develop the attitude. We will crush whoever's in our way. Having said that, what do you think will happen next week?
We'll get smashed. I think the thing is too is no side takes the foot off the pedal against us, respective of where they are going to finish on the ladder. Every side almost wants to treat us as their grand final for some fucking inexplicable reason. So I don't think Port will want to. And the problem is at the moment, Port's not being talked about as a flag favourite, despite finishing top of the ladder. It's all about Geelong and Richmond. I think if that's the case, they want to have a point to prove next week, even though nothing probably changes about their ladder positions, whether they win, lose or draw. But they'll want to make a point against us. And I think, look, I don't see anything out of today's game that screams a side that can change things in such a short duration in a final. So I think we'll probably be meek next week and take that meekness into the first final. But me, I'm full of positive thoughts.
Yeah, bastard. Sidebottom won't be there next week. They're trying to get him back into Queensland for the finals.
I don't know. I don't know whether we'll see him again this year.
Well, congratulations.
It depends on.
Congratulations to Steele, whose wife had daughter Matilda.
Yep. But with a newborn, I just can't see anyone just saying, "Well, it's popped out now. I'll see you in a month's time potentially." I don't know. And then I think Penders was talking about that post game tonight about he's not sure, whether mum and the newborn will jump on a plane as well. I don't think that support mechanism is there for that type of thing. It's all about, I guess, whether this, and I'm sure this has been discussed ad infinitum at a family level, and whatever decision they make is perceived to be the best. As long as she's got some form of support structure around her at home, there's every chance she could jump on a plane. And I'm sure she does. So it'll be interesting about where it sits. But it's an unknown having a kid. You just, especially your first one, I wouldn't predictably say you could comfortably leave the house a week after it's born and go back and play footy.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to look at it from the other point of view that, let's say I have this conversation and still says, hey, I want to go back and play finals. And, she'll say, well, how long will that be? And you go, it's only going to be the 1 week. So I'll be straight back.
Well, that's an actually pretty fair point. I should have looked at that logically.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it from us. Any final thoughts before we totally sign off?
Nah, fuck off.
Oh, thanks. You robbo. Well, you'll hear from us next week.
Probably hear from us from a bit of a louder volume.
That sounds fine here.
No.
In your living room.
All right. We're done.
Later.
Catch.